Welcome to the Homeschool High School podcast, brought to you by Seven Sisters Homeschool.com and the Ultimate Homeschool Podcast Network. I'm Vicki, and I am here to talk about a requested topic, and that is plagiarism. So it is so easy these days for young people to be tempted to throw a prompt into their Chat GPT or other AI tool and get a paper produced for them. So my son, that is a teacher at a university in Korea, um, in his freshman class that he was teaching, found that half of his students, when they turned in their research paper, had done AI research papers. Like, as they had the theme and they gave it to the AI tool, and the tool wrote their paper for them, but it was so easily identifiable. So, what he was able to do in this case was to talk to the students and have them go back and write the paper themselves, because it was a freshman class and they were learning skills. So he was able to, by the university's permission, give them a second chance. On the other hand, one of my other sons, when he was in graduate school, they have the PhD students teaching undergrad classes. So in one of his classes, one of his star students was very busy. And so she bought her paper from a site, because you can go online and buy research papers already written. So she bought her research paper and handed that in. Unfortunately, it's very easy for those who have plagiarism trackers and people who are trained teachers at universities to recognize when there is some plagiarism going on, including buying your research paper. And my son, it caused him agony because this was a star student. She was just busy. He had to report her, and she lost her full ride scholarship. So she wasn't dismissed from the school, but she lost her full ride scholarship. Can you imagine? So plagiarism can be a problem. It is tempting, but it is a problem. So we want to teach our teens, as they're writing their first research papers, to develop the skills that they do not need to plagiarize. So teens, I hope you're listening to this too. All right, so let's talk about how to avoid making any plagiarism kind of mistakes on our research paper. So, all right, step one, remember your topic. Okay, if you know what your topic is, so if you're doing an APA paper, you've got a topic you are writing about. If you're writing an MLA paper, you've got your thesis that you are working on. That's going to guide you, and it's easier to not plagiarize, not just copy and paste somebody else's work, because it won't stay on theme as best. If somebody else is doing it, if it's your paper and you're writing it, you'll stay on topic a little bit better. So stay on topic. That's number two. All right. Then also, next, don't ever copy and paste. When you are taking notes, don't copy and paste. It's easy. Like, if you have a file open and you're taking notes, and those are going to be what you're going to use for your paper, you can do that, and that is really good. Or if you like old-fashioned note cards, you can do that. But if you're doing your file and it's on a digital format, and you just highlight, copy and paste information that's good for your paper, what is going to be most likely is you're going to be tempted to copy and paste that into your paper. And so that two problems with that. One is, unless you show that as a quote with citations, that's plagiarism. But also, when you just copy and paste, you're not learning the material, and you're not learning how to write a research paper. The point of research paper is training your brain to do the process of writing a research paper. It is like mental exercise. It's like going to the gym for your brain. You are learning a topic and you're learning a research format, and it is good for your brain cells. And the only way this happens is by you interpreting what you write. Or if you're doing a quote, you hand write out the quote on your note cards, or you type out the notes into your file, but don't copy and paste. Remember, on every note you take, be sure to include the citation. And so if you're doing an APA paper, you have guidelines on how to do those APA citations. Follow those. If you're doing an MLA or a Chicago, follow the rules for those kind of citations. It may seem boring, but it is really good mental exercises. You're getting smarter for doing it, okay? All right. So, because remember, if we're just cutting and pasting into our papers, we're using somebody else's work. That's called cheating. It's also called plagiarizing. So we're not doing that. Okay. All right. So if you think about it, as you are ready to write your paper, you have taken notes, either typed them out yourself or handwritten them with the citations. Now you're ready to write your paper. You're not cutting and pasting something right out of your notes into the paper. What you're doing is either interpreting what you learned, you're digesting that into your paper, and so you're putting what you learned into your own words, or in a certain number of cases, so APA, MLA, you want some quotes in there, and you can, as long as it's clearly identified as a quote, following the format for the quotes in the paper. Like APA, a long quote, you're going to indent on both sides of that quote. And then you include citations. So if you can use quotes. You can also interpret, put it in your own words, which is really important. And every paragraph should be that way. Always put citations. There should be at least one citation in every paragraph, maybe not your intro, maybe not your conclusion, but the body of your text. The body of your paper is going to have a citation. Where did I get this idea from? It's in my own words, but where did I get this idea from? That way you're clearly showing, one, that you've learned stuff, you're working the process, but also you haven't plagiarized. You haven't used somebody else's work and not given them credit. It's not that hard. It is not that hard. And if you think about it in terms of you're writing papers, not because you got to write a paper, you're writing papers to grow your brain, to become smarter, to become a little more expert in a topic of interest to you. And you are learning to work with a format, which is like playing a game by the rules. It makes you stronger. It makes you sharper. So this is really, really good for your brain and your wisdom and your smarts. So writing papers by format, by the rules, in your own words, not plagiarized. It is so good for you. Okay. All right. So it's not that hard. Not that hard. Just don't copy and paste. Put things in your own words. If you have trouble putting things in your words, practice on your parents. Say, hey, I'm trying to figure out how to say this. And then maybe they can brainstorm some ideas with you. So that is a perfectly valid thing to do. All right. And then once y'all kind of work through it, then you can write that down and figure out how you want to put that into your paper. So the point, again, you're not plagiarizing, you're not using someone else's work and not giving them credit. You're getting citations all over your paper, showing that you've done research, showing that you can follow a format, showing that you have learned things, and it will pay off in the long run. So for those of you guys, when you go to college, I have so many homeschoolers tell me when they go off to their freshman composition classes, having written some good APA and MLA and Chicago papers ahead of time, they are way ahead of a lot of the rest of their classes. And so they get kind of shining grades and really impress their professors. So that's a cool thing. For young people who are not college bound, writing papers helps you be able to think and get information in a way that's going to matter to you and bring your ability to digest information and then share that information where that's necessary with other people. That's just a life skill, communication. All right. All right. So communicate well, grow, and you don't need to plagiarize because you're awesome and you know how to do this without getting into trouble for not giving credit where credit is due. All right, you can do this. So this has been the Homeschool High School Podcast, brought to you by Seven Sisters Homeschool.com and the Ultimate Homeschool Podcast Network. Thank you to Seth Tillman for editing, and we'll see you next week.